So, this is an update on the Week 7, 2025 NFL TV announcers in the simulcast stations. So, we have the national broadcast Thursday night, Pittsburgh at Cincinnati on Amazon Prime Video. And it's going to be simulcast in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania TV market and the Cincinnati, Ohio TV market. And then other names Jacksonville is going to be simulcast in the Los Angeles TV market, as well as the Jacksonville TV market. It's going to be simulcast in as well. And then the Houston Seattle game is going to be simulcast in the Houston area and the Seattle area, Seattle, Washington area, and the Houston, Texas area. It will be. The Pittsburgh Cincinnati obviously is going to be with same announcers, Michael Scrooge Street. LA Jacksonville might be with Rich Eisen and Kurt Warner. Because before last year, when they first started the Brazil game, it wasn't Rich Eisen and Kurt Warner. So they might only be doing so many games a year. And so they might have had someone else do Ireland. That's why they had Joe Davis, Greg Olsen do Ireland. Maybe. And then Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma do London. So, could be. But anyways, let's go and talk about which games are simulcast announcers. So Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and we have Monday. That's Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. in Seattle. And that Seattle was going to be the ESPN Plus game. However, ESPN decided to move it to ESPN to have an ESPN only game. And besides in the simulcast areas. Last year there was one on ESPN and ABC, and then there was one on ABC. Usually they have one on ESPN. Usually they have one on ABC. At like 6:15, 7:15 Eastern is one on ESPN. 8:15 Eastern is the one that starts ABC. And before they had one, they tested out when I first did, with one at 7:15 Eastern ABC, and and then they had all the post game of that game, of the ABC game on ABC. But that part kind of fought though. So I'm like, why not just have the second game on ABC? So that's what they did. And before they had one on ESPN and ABC, and then they had one on ESPN2, and then ESPN2 had Payne and Eli. And what they did was they had a second game, one on ESPN, and then Payne and Eli went to ESPN Plus for bonus coverage. They did bonus coverage. The rest of the second game was on. They did that one in. But yeah. Anyways, let's go talk about the simulcast station. So it's the Thursday night game, Pittsburgh Cincinnati simulcast on WTAE ABC 4 in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area, and WCPO ABC 9, which WCPO is a channel name. And then on your TV, it's gonna be ABC 9 in Cincinnati, Ohio. Like over there, or like if people have like cable, it's also simulcast in those areas. Some people might have like cable channels, but they don't get like, they don't subscribe to like Amazon Prime, or they don't have an NFL network in their TV area on their TV package, or some even just offer like the basic like local over there channels, or like, which is like kind of a scam. Like my grandma has that shit with her local TV provider, or like local cable internet company. Like telecom has like a TV service. It's like a scam right there. But I guess it's for old people who don't, You just want the basics, but don't want to set up antenna. Or maybe get every single over-the-air channel they get somewhere range. So here, battery where signal sucks. And then it's LA Rams at Jacksonville. It's on KTTV Fox 7 in Los Angeles. It's actually the West Coast Fox affiliate. And Fox 30 in Jacksonville. And then Houston at Seattle, Simulcast and KHOU, CBS 7 in Houston area, and KING, NBC 5 in the Seattle area. The two teams with buys are Baltimore at Buffalo. They're only having 2 this week. Instead of having 4, they're having 2 just because the extra Monday night game. And then the CBS single is the feature note game is going to be Las Vegas at Kansas City with Jimmy at Sumo. That's because it's obviously Kansas City. So, and then New England at Tennessee is game 4. And Tennessee's really, New England should be carrying that up, but Tennessee's carrying that down. They just fired their coach, Brian Callahan. And they're 1-5. And that's Tennessee's really carrying that matchup down. New England is really what's not keeping it at the 4 at the 5, excuse me. If New England was, so it wouldn't be at the 4 anyways, but yeah, New England is really carrying that matchup to a 4 though. Tennessee is not that good of a team this season, 1-5. But they're in the early window. And then Andrew Kelly and Charles Davis, Jason McCourty. And then in the late win, and then it's Mehmet Cleveland, which is the 5th game. That game is not that great. You have 2 teams but really at the bottom. They're both 1-5. Miami and Cleveland. It's pretty average. The 2 teams that are really, really disappointing seasons. They just had Cleveland had Joe Flacco. Got rid of Joe Flacco. And they had Dalen Gabriel, their backup quarterback for the start of the season. He came in as the starter in London. So, and then we started the last game. And it's Pittsburgh. And then Miami, Tua. He's not with. Miami what has been good in past years, but this season, it just hasn't been his season. I mean, he's coming off like a concussion though, and stuff like that. So hard coming off concussions. And he's had so many of them that they're honestly, like medically retiring. Like everyone's like his doctors, like team trainers, everyone's been like, the best case for your health would probably be to medically retire. He doesn't want to do it. He might be the like backup quarterbacking anyways, because apparently I don't know if like Zach Wilson or like Quinn Ewers will be starting, but he said some things about this team and like players aren't sure at the practice. Or like a comment he said. That might get him benched. So, and then Indianapolis LA Chargers. Well, with the second feature game, like the top 2 announced. Usually, what they do is they put the top 2 announced crews on either the early window or the late window, and they don't like, they might overlap each other. Sometimes you'd have CBS. They'd put like the second featured crew on a late window game, regardless if there was a late window game, and it might not necessarily be the second best game. So now they've been doing that more. Now they've been doing that the second best game. It's Indianapolis Church, which it is. If it wasn't like if it was in Indianapolis, I could see it actually being the number 1 game. Yeah, that game is a really solid game. The Colts are 5-1. LA Chargers lost a couple games, but now they've lost a couple in a row. But now they should be better now. I hope, and we'll see. 5-1 versus 3-2. Yeah. I believe they're 3-2. Maybe are they 4-2? Yeah, they're 4-2. That's right. They're 4-2. They were 3-2. So yeah, they beat Miami. So now they're 4-2. So that's gonna be a really good game. Indianapolis right now is leading the AFC. All the AFC are going to be AFC South, unless it's like Jacksonville. But Jacksonville could win the AFC South. But Indianapolis is in prime position. Still really high up there, even if they lose both to Jacksonville, which I could see a split. That one. So we'll see. It's a good solid match. And you legit what? Two really solid teams in the AFC, the American Football Conference. We have, and in the final game in is the number 3 announce crew, Kevin Harlan and Trent Green. They're calling the NY Giants at Denver game. NY Giants coming off that upset win in New Jersey, coming off the upset win in New Jersey against the Philadelphia Eagles. So, and then Denver's coming off that slouch over the other New Jersey team in the Jets. So they are looking. They're coming off they did really play kind of slouchy, like really like kind of like just like not the best. They had a good start, but then they just lackadaisical. You kind of like one of those things like you feel comfortable. You get comfortable, and then you're like, I don't want to. Like you feel comfortable with it, but then afterwards, it's kind of like, you know, when you feel comfortable, then afterwards you just start to, I don't know, kind of one of those things where you just feel comfortable. Think you're comfortable maybe with the lead. They just did not play their great though. And then Philadelphia, Minnesota is the featured game in the early window on Fox. Fox is the early and late window doubleheader. Amami and Greg Olson with Philadelphia, Minnesota. Then the second game, that'll be game number 4. New Orleans. That Chicago. New Orleans is New Orleans has been kind of struggling this year. New Orleans is 1-5. I want to say. Yeah, they are 1-5. Chicago is 3-3 after that win in Maryland, in like Maryland, Virginia area. And I know they do not play in Washington D.C. They're having a deal to move back to Washington D.C. area. Actually play in Washington D.C. like all the Washington team names in professional sports. They're not actually like Washington State. They're in Washington D.C. area. So that would be, or Maryland, Virginia, that type of thing. So that they're in an area that moved back to Washington D.C. like they used to be in. That Washington D.C. actually closer to Washington D.C. Not as farther away. Right directly in Washington D.C. New Orleans, and then number 4 now screw. Number 5 now screw game. Yeah, it's Chris Myers, right? Should Joe Davis. Emma Mean is working with Greg Olson. I wonder who's going to be the fill-in. Mark Shudrith is going to be the permanent now. On with Chris Myers for the most part. Then I wonder how the announce crews are going to get shifted, because you have the announce crews are going to get shifted. I wonder how, because there's no Mark Sanchez, and then when Joe Davis comes back, he'll work with Great Ghost. So I wonder if is Amamine going to get the short stick, or is Amamine going to be with Mark Shildreth anymore?